Hello everyone. Today we will have two interesting stories. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics and the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail. Broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. Hello, I want to tell you my story. I will begin my story in hot pursuit. It's 3 a.m., literally 5 hours ago. I found out about my wife's infidelity. I will try to tell the whole story briefly and clearly. I married my wife 7 years ago on the day I had my birthday. Like probably everyone else at the beginning of a relationship, my girlfriend was an angel. No one has ever loved me so much or cared for me so much except my late mother. She had a 5-year-old daughter from a previous marriage. A year later, our son was born. We lived like all people. There were scandals between us and so on, but everything was in acceptable doses. Nevertheless, our love remained at a high level. After 4 years, I began to notice some changes in her. She abruptly began to take better care of herself. She also went to talk on the phone to the toilet or to the balcony and so on. But my intuition opened up like a sixth sense in me. My wife had everything for me very well. I must give her credit. My wife was let down by a new phone that did not delete messages but archived them. One fine morning, I read all these messages. I will not retell all these messages, but they left few thoughts about my doubt about her betrayal. We started a long-term showdown that lasted about 2 months. My wife denied everything. Well, big deal. They kissed a couple of times in the hallway, but over time their relationship gained momentum. He lived in our house and was 7 years younger than my wife. He divorced his wife and was going to marry mine. The last straw was their 3-day vacation trip together. When she returned, I packed my things and left. Before I left, I said, if it's my fault, I'm sorry. I didn't want it to happen like this. 3 days later, she called me and said that son missed his father. I came to a meeting and we went to a pizzeria. When I was about to leave, she began to have hysterics with screams and tears in a crowded place. She apologized and said she couldn't live without me. Not immediately, but I forgive her. There were several reasons I loved her. We had a son for 4 years and an established lifestyle. Although I understood that if a girl betrayed once, she would do it over and over again. I understood that, but I couldn't do anything else. But I'm a kind person by nature. 3 years have passed and I have déjà vu. My wife started having the same symptoms. But this time, she was smarter. She began to look for reasons to quarrel, even if there were none at all. She did it so that I would leave first of my own free will or through my fault. I almost fell for her tricks, but in the evening, I went out to the store and met a couple in love who were walking by the hand. By the way, I forgot to tell you that I'm 36 years old and my wife is 40 years old. Her new boyfriend was 27 years old, and I thought we were fighting just because of everyday life. I know this guy. He shook my hand 2 hours ago when we met. When I looked into her eyes, I immediately lost interest in her. I've never seen such an eloquent look in my life. Take my word for it, I'm not embellishing. There was happiness, pity, shame, and loathing in her eyes at the same time. As a result, I returned home with her and packed my things, but because of the late time, I stayed until the morning. It's 4 o'clock in the morning and I couldn't sleep. As you can guess, I'm having the hardest hours of my life right now. Although, while I'm sharing this with you, it's getting easier for me. I'll leave tomorrow with a small bag of things. That's all I had. I rented an apartment. There was a weekend ahead. Tips like exercise or go for a walk don't always help. I just don't want anything. Of course, I understand that it will become easier for me. It will just take some time, but how painful it is to go through this time. I understand perfectly well that this is my own fault because I forgave my ex-wife after the first betrayal. But you must understand that I could not have acted differently at that moment. I couldn't go and beat up this guy. If you think like that, then you need to beat up all the men in our city. This guy doesn't work anywhere and rents a studio apartment. I do not know what place my wife is thinking, probably with her booty. but definitely not with her head. She's already 40 years old. Probably her need to think about the children we have, but she didn't care. I'm feeling for divorce because I just don't see any other way out. We got divorced and it was very difficult for me to start a new life. But 6 months later, I succeeded. I have found a new girlfriend and we are currently expecting a baby. I am very happy that I have survived this situation in my life. Never repeat my mistakes. That's the end of the story. But now, there will be another short story. Let's go. I met my wife when she was 16 and I was 21. At that time, she was living in another city and I was visiting my relatives there. But as it happens, a noisy company of alcohol and girls, and one of these girls was her. I fell in love at first sight. I will omit our further development of the relationship. I will only say one thing, that the first sex happened about a year after the beginning of the relationship. Perhaps because we lived in different cities. One day I couldn't reach her all night, and it was only in the morning that she picked up the phone. Naturally, I yelled at her, and out of fright, she confessed that she was at the party and cheated on me. Imagine what I felt at that moment. In a rage, I smashed my phone and punched the wall after I called work and said that I could be fired. Because I'm going to another city for about a week. Thank God I wasn't fired. A week before, I bought a new car. I had to drive very fast in an inadequate condition. I had to drive 700 kilometers, but before I reached 200 kilometers, I crashed into a fence in the road. I was lucky, only the car was damaged. As a result, I saw her and melted away like sugar in the sun, after which I forgive her. But in the evening, I drank and got behind the wheel. I'm a fool in a state of passion. I found this guy and started a fight with him. Thank God I didn't beat him too much. He was saved by his friends. To be honest, I lost this fight. They responded by beating me up with a crowd. Well, in general, it's my fault. In short, after everything that happened, I put my wife in the car, blocked the doors, and took her to my place. She didn't even have time to take her documents with her. A year later, we got married. We lived happily. We had sex every day and wherever possible. After 5 years of our life together, sex has become less and less frequently. My wife has a new girlfriend. She went to visit her every day, and of course I didn't suspect anything wrong, but I had my suspicions. In short, I went and passed the test and I was found to have a whole bunch of venereal diseases. You wouldn't wish that on an enemy. In rage, I thought I was going to kill her. I do not know why, but I could not afford to cheat. When I got home, I gave her 4 good slaps in the face. She got scared and told me everything again. As it turned out, one guy liked her who was a friend of her friend's family. A friend brought them together without thinking for a long time. But as they say, no one forced my wife's legs apart. Their relationship lasted 6 months and she told me all the details. I demanded these details from her myself. I do not know why I needed it. I clenched my jaw so hard that my teeth almost fell off. At the moment when I was listening to the story of my crying wife, in the end, I didn't stop there and said that if I found out anything else from strangers, I would kill her. Do you know how my wife justified herself? I was her only man. She couldn't deny herself in this life to try what sex with another is. As a result, there was no stopping her after the first time. She had a boyfriend before me that she didn't have sex with. And she went on vacation to her sister and decided to fix this situation. She met with him, and in a rented apartment for a week, he did anything with her. One day, after getting pretty drunk, a friend came to their rented apartment to take them home. But they had a threesome, and my wife didn't mind. But she told me that I was drunk and didn't understand what was going on. I was shocked and digested this information for 2 months. I had a lot of different thoughts in my head, but I couldn't forgive that. I filed for divorce and started a new life. If you like the story, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. Now let's move on to the opinion of the author of the channel. The opinion of the author of the channel: according to tradition, I want to wish strength and patience to our heroes. In both stories, men made the mistake of forgiving cheating on their significant other, but in the end, they both realized their mistake. This is the most important thing. I hope that everything will be fine with them. One of the heroes said that advice does not help to distract, but this is not entirely true. Yes, I understand that at the moment of the breakup, everyone feels very bad, and I felt these emotions. But in fact, it's all in our head, and we're doing ourselves a bad turn. All we need to do is understand that there's nothing wrong with that. The only scary thing is that we're wasting time on these girls. Time in our lives is even more than money. This is the most important thing for every person. We are given a life that can be interrupted at any time. Therefore, let's live this life so that we don't regret it later. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.